Hi. When we learn to play a musical instrument, it's very difficult to avoid really getting a bit dispirited at various stages along the way. And I'm sure that everybody who's learning music will nod in their agreement to this. And I know it's certainly been true of my own journey that you get to certain points, don't you, where you might actually be practicing quite hard, but you feel you're a bit stuck, it's not really progressing, or that you feel there are certain things that just keep going wrong. And so this is designed to just help us think about how we view those particular challenges. Now, if we're a student, sometimes it is just about converting the language that we use when we speak to ourselves about this. But this is also something that might be helpful to teachers, where inevitably when we're teaching in a sort of critical place, that's the nature of it, isn't it? In order to help people to improve, we need to be able to tell them what's not going so well as congratulating them on the things that are going well. And keeping that balance is terribly important. When we're learning, we need to remind ourselves about the fact that we have made progress, that there are certain things that are going very nicely, but maybe other things not going so well. But this is designed to try and help us think slightly differently about the things that we tend to say to ourselves. So just a few examples of statements that we might helpfully convert. How many times have you said to yourself, and by the way, this is not just true of music, it's true of life in general, isn't it? But I think it's particularly true for us who are trying to perfect the art of making music. How many times have you said to yourself, I'm not good at this? Whether it's actually I'm not good at playing the piano, or I'm just not good at playing Bach, or I'm not good at playing polyphonic music, or I'm not good at playing hands together, or I'm not good at tonguing if I'm a wind player, you know, whatever it is. We often make this statement, I'm not good at this. Okay, let's convert that statement into this one. What am I missing? Because it's a much more positive way of looking at it, isn't it? Instead of just kind of denouncing yourself and saying, I'm not good at this, so I might as well give up and call it a draw. Well, actually, if something's not going right, what is it that I'm missing? What do I need to do to get my hands to play in a more coordinated way on the piano? What do I need to do in order to read a fugue that might look very polyphonic and complicated? Maybe I need to read each line on its own and get to know that. Maybe I need to practice hands separately to get that going. If I'm not great on tonguing, well, what do I need to do? There's a technical issue that I need to enlist some help on, really. If the teacher's not raised it, to ask the teacher, why when I tongue these notes do I get this strange sound, or the attack's not clean, or the note is slow to speak? You know, these kind of things. You know, why when I play my violin does it make such a lousy sound? Well, what are we doing technically in terms of where is the bow on the string? How much pressure is being applied? How am I holding the bow? How am I holding the violin? All these things will have answers. So this is the question. Instead of, I'm not good at this, what am I missing? And teachers hopefully could be more alert to that, just to think, actually, instead of just saying, that sounds bad, actually, what can we say that's going to help someone to grasp an issue that's not quite ticking, whether it's musically an issue, expressively in other words, or whether it's a reading issue, understanding how to read a rhythm. You know, lots of people say, I'm not very good at sight reading, okay, or I'm not very good at reading rhythms, or I'm not very good at reading notes. Well, what am I missing? Well, maybe I understand what the rhythm values are, but I don't really know how they sound when you connect them with a pulse. So maybe I need to work on rhythm on its own. If I'm not very good at reading the pitch of notes, maybe I just need to practice that and find other ways of reading notes, like reading the patterns of notes. You know, this can be applied in so many different ways. But instead of, I'm not good at this, ask yourself the question, what am I missing? And that's going to get you to a much more satisfactory conclusion, isn't it? Because it's a question that needs answering. And when the question's been answered and we can put it into practice, we won't anymore need to say this. But we've actually got hold of that. Here's another one. I give up. Well, has that ever happened to you? You've been practicing away for weeks, hours, years, whatever it is, and you think, I just can't play this, I give up. We might be giving up with a particular piece that's just too difficult for us, or we just fine, we can't play these scales, you know, we just think, give up on it. We might, at the most drastic, think, that's it, I've had it, I'm not going to play, I'm not going to sing anymore, I just give up. Well, instead of that, how about this? I'll try a different way. And again, enlist the help of a teacher to suggest how that might be done. But if something's not working, it's usually nothing to do with you. It's to do with the fact that maybe the approach isn't working, so we need to take a different approach to how we're doing this. So lots of things you can do. I mean, I find, for example, with keyboard players who have trouble with, you know, which are the sharps and the flats and where do the fingering go and scales, actually there are ways of doing that, little things that you can get hold of that help you to remember where the thumbs go or what the patterns are, things like that. So in other words, instead of just trying to find every single note, you learn the thing in a different way. So instead of I give up, I'll try a different way. You might be able to find that on your own. You might need to consult a teacher by simply saying, you know, I feel like giving up on this, I just can't do whatever it is. Is there another way of doing it? Okay, here's another one. This is too hard. And that's a tempting statement to make, isn't it? Especially if you're playing for fun or singing for fun, you think, well, maybe I'll just do pieces that I can manage, you know? If it's within my grasp, then it's not going to be too difficult and I can live with a few pieces that I can do, or maybe I can learn another piece as long as it's not too difficult. And then somebody comes along and says, how about this one? And as you start on it, you think, oh no, this is beyond me, far too hard. So we say, this is too hard. Convert that statement into this. This is going to take time and effort. Because actually, how do we progress musically, as in anything else? We push ourselves to new horizons. So we don't just sit in our comfort zone. We might be making music with certain things that we can play quite comfortably, but if we're going to make headway, we're going to have to take on fresh challenges. I think, now this piece is pretty difficult. So what do I need to do to conquer it? And to recognize that it is going to take time and effort. Maybe I need to break it down. Maybe I need to play it at half the speed so I can just get through the processing of all these notes. Maybe I need to, you know, clap the rhythms before I play them. Maybe I need to do a little bit of work at finding notes in the upper register of an instrument, or getting my intonation really centered so it's nicely in tune with more extreme notes. You know, whatever the challenge is, instead of saying this is too hard, just think this is going to take time and effort. It's not going to come so easily. Be patient, break down the task and see how we can do it in manageable chunks, and then we can spread the time scale and not worry about the fact that it might take us rather longer to learn this than we'd anticipated. But if it takes a few weeks, a few months, that's absolutely fine. It's just going to take time and it's going to take effort. But it wants to be well-directed effort. So again, asking for help. What's the best way I can go about this task so my effort is productive, rather than saying, this is too hard. I can't do this. I've often heard people say that. I just can't do this. It's hopeless, you know. Well, what's the challenge there? Convert that into, I'm going to learn how to do this. In other words, I'll learn how to do this even if it kills me, you know. A kind of determination not to be defeated by something, but to take on the challenge of, I'm going to learn how to do this. And I can think of many examples of people that I've taught over the years who've really struggled with something at first, and it's been a big sweat. And actually they've persisted and they've done a bit of this, and they've actually learned how to do it. And then the sense of reward at the end of that is absolutely fantastic. So a conversion of I can't do this into I'm going to learn how to do this. What about this one? I've got this wrong. Well, again, it's a kind of defeatist statement, isn't it? I've got this wrong, so there we are. It's not going to be right. Well, mistakes help me learn. That's a much more positive way of doing that. As with all things in life, we do learn by our mistakes. And in life, sometimes we all make mistakes that we rather regret. Well, it's not quite the same musically, is it? So that's a big relief. But sometimes we're learning a piece and we just suddenly play a load of wrong notes or something. Well, okay, what can we learn from those mistakes? So rather than just think, well, I can't do this and I've just played a load of wrong notes. Why did I play those notes incorrectly? Did I read them incorrectly? Did I use the wrong fingers? Did I have the wrong technical approach in my tonguing or my bowing? Was it that I'm a singer and I just ran out of breath and I couldn't get through those notes? Or maybe I'm singing them in the wrong part of my voice. They need to be placed in a different way. You know, actually the mistakes are clues to things that we need to learn about. So step back from mistakes and think, okay, what do I need to learn in order to overcome those mistakes? And again, this might need the guidance of a teacher. Now, there are many other statements that we could investigate, but I think you probably get the general theme here about how we so easily as human beings make these kind of statements that are defeatist and make us just want to give it all up. And yet, if we were to think that in a different way, in a slightly more positive way, which doesn't distract from the truth of what we're saying, this recognizes that I'm making mistakes, but it's also helping me to see how I can do something positive with those mistakes, that it's a means of learning something. If we start to think in green instead of in black, actually it will really encourage our progress and probably will get on a lot better.